The last thing Elsie Freeman remembered before the world went dark was the smell of disinfectant mixed with reheated coffee in the elevator of the Blue Ocean commercial building. What she never imagined was that she would wake up in the arms of a green-eyed man who would change her life forever, and that she was being filmed by security cameras during one of the most embarrassing moments of her career. "Hey, hey, easy there." A smooth, masculine voice brought her back to reality. "Are you okay?" Elsie blinked several times, trying to focus her vision. A concerned face materialized above hers, sharp features framed by slightly tousled brown hair. She was literally in the arms of a stranger, on the cold marble floor of the lobby. What happened?" she murmured, trying to sit up. "You fainted in the elevator. Lucky I was coming down when the doors opened." He helped her carefully lean against the wall. Marcus Hayes." "Elsie," she replied automatically, still dizzy. "Sorry, this isn't normal, I swear." Marcus smiled sideways, a smile that had something both sarcastic and gentle about it. Well, for a first impression it was quite memorable. Elsie felt her face heat up. Great. As if it wasn't embarrassing enough to faint in public, she had to do it in front of a man who looked like he stepped out of a magazine. "Which floor were you going to?" he asked, offering his hand to help her stand. 12th, consultation for the Paws and Hearts Shelter." She accepted his help, noticing he had firm, calloused hands. Strange for someone wearing a watch that seemed to cost more than her 6 months' rent. What a coincidence. Him also going to the 12th floor. They entered the elevator together, and Elsie tried to ignore the fact that he smelled like something expensive and masculine, with a subtle hint of ocean breeze. "So you work with animals?" Marcus asked, breaking the silence. "I'm a veterinarian. And you, let me guess, financial consultant, lawyer, or maybe you're the Marcus from Best Buy," she said with an ironic smile. He let out a genuine laugh. "Marcus from Best Buy? That's a new one. Sorry, it's just that you look like someone who sells furniture on installment plans with no interest." Elsie surprised herself with her own boldness. Maybe the fainting had affected her social filters. "Actually, I work with retail, department stores." "Ah, so I was right. You're like a Target brother." The elevator doors opened on the 12th floor, and they walked down the corridor in opposite directions. "It was a pleasure meeting you, Elsie." Marcus turned before entering an office. "And next time, try eating something before leaving home, okay?" It was the 3-day-old reheated coffee's fault, not lack of food, she shouted from afar. But he had already disappeared behind a door. Elsie shook her head, smiling involuntarily. What a strange man. Gentle, but with an acidic humor that matched hers. And why the hell was she thinking about this? An hour later, during the meeting with those responsible for the Paws and Hearts Shelter, Elsie discovered that her concerns went far beyond casual elevator encounters. "What do you mean by zoning problem?" she asked, studying the blueprints and documents spread across the table. Martha, the shelter coordinator, sighed heavily. "A company wants to build a commercial complex right next to our land. If they get environmental approval, we'll have to move. And with 200 rescued animals, you understand the problem." "What company?" "Hayes and Life, that department store chain that's expanding across the whole country. The owner is a billionaire, kind of reclusive. They say he doesn't care about anything except profit." Elsie felt something unpleasant forming in her stomach. "Hayes, like Marcus Hayes." "Exactly. Do you know him?" Before Elsie could answer, her phone vibrated with an Instagram notification. It was Nina, her best friend, tagging her in a video. "Guys, look at this veterinarian fainting in the elevator. LOL, dies but feels fine." The video had security camera footage from the lobby. There she was, falling gracefully into Marcus' arms, while a caption read, "When you see your credit card bill arriving, 3,000 views in 2 hours. I'm going to kill someone," Elsie muttered, putting away her phone. And to think that for a few minutes she had found Marcus Hayes charming. The same man who now threatened the place she loved most in Bakersfield, and who had inadvertently made her famous on social media for the worst possible reason. War was declared. The next morning, Elsie woke up with her cat, Lord Byron, stepping on her face at 5:30 in the morning, demanding gourmet salmon as if he were a small, furry tyrant. "Byron, you eat kibble, like a normal cat," she mumbled, pushing the feline aside. Byron stared at her with the typical disdain of someone who knew exactly how much he was worth and wasn't willing to negotiate. "Okay, liver pâté, that's the most you're getting." While preparing coffee, Elsie checked her phone and almost dropped her cup. The elevator video had reached 50,000 views overnight. Worse, someone had discovered her identity and created memes. Elsie Freeman, the veterinarian who faints in elevators but saves animals on the ground. Plot twist: she pretended to faint to meet the hottie. Me being me in any social situation. Perfect, she sighed, taking a sip of bitter coffee. Now I'm a walking meme. Her phone rang. It was her grandmother, Grandma Claire, calling from Fresno. "Elsie, honey, I saw your video on YouTube. How cute of you flirting with that handsome young man." "Grandma, I really fainted." "And the handsome young man is my #1 enemy." "Enemy? Sweetheart, you're in the man's arms, not boxing. And another thing, I found out who he is. Marcus Hayes, owner of Hayes and Life. Billionaire, single, 30-something. You caught a big fish." "I didn't catch anyone. He's going to destroy the animal shelter." "Ah, so that's why you're interested in him." Nothing like a little tension to spice up romance. "Grandma," Elsie, honey, listen to the voice of experience. The most interesting men always come with problems. Your grandfather tried to steal a chicken from me when we met. He didn't try to steal a chicken from me. He tried to steal 200 abandoned animals. Yeah, that's worse. But at least he's rich. After hanging up, Elsie got ready for another day of consulting at the shelter, determined to find a solution to the land problem. She wouldn't let Marcus Hayes, or Mr. Walmart, as she now mentally called him, destroy years of work. At the shelter, she found an unexpected situation. A tall man with grey hair and an expensive suit was talking to Martha near the gate. "Elsie," Martha waved. "Come here. This is Mr. Albert Mason from the Environmental Department." Albert extended his hand with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Ms. Freeman, pleasure to meet you. I came personally to assess the delicate situation of the land." "Delicate how?" Elsie shook his hand, feeling something slimy on his palm. The man was sweating too much for a relatively cool day. "Well, there are some irregularities in the shelter's occupancy documents, nothing that can't be resolved with everyone's cooperation." The way he said resolved made Elsie shiver. "What kind of cooperation?" Albert looked around as if making sure no one else was listening. "Let's say some adjustments to the environmental reports could benefit both parties. The shelter stays, construction happens, everyone's happy." "And what would that cost?" Elsie crossed her arms. "Oh, we don't talk about money here, Dr. Freeman. We talk about strategic partnerships." Martha seemed confused, but Elsie understood perfectly. Blackmail disguised as bureaucracy. "I'll think about what you said," she replied, keeping her voice neutral. After Albert left, Martha turned to her. "What was that about?" "Problem. Big problem." That afternoon, Elsie was examining a rescued dog when she heard familiar voices in the courtyard. She peeked through the window and saw Marcus talking to two men in suits, pointing to different areas of the adjacent land. Impulse, pure impulse, made her exit through the back door and hide behind the fence that divided the two properties. "The project is approved by the competent authorities," said one of the suited men. "We just need the final environmental license." "And what about the animal shelter?" Marcus' voice sounded more serious than she remembered. "Matter of time. Albert guarantees they'll have to leave." "Albert who?" "Mason, the guy from City Hall who's facilitating the process." Elsie held her breath. Marcus was indeed in cahoots with that slimy man. "I don't want anyone to be harmed," Marcus said. "If the shelter needs to relocate, well, fully fund the move." "Marcus, you're too nice. It's just a bunch of strays and a veterinarian playing world savior." Elsie felt her blood boil. Playing veterinarian? She was going to show them what a playing veterinarian was. "This playing veterinarian has a name," she said, appearing from behind the fence like a 5'5" fury, and also has functioning ears. The three men turned, surprised. Marcus had the decency to look embarrassed. Elsie, Dr. Freeman to you, Mr. Walmart, she interrupted. And since you're so concerned about funding our move, how about funding your own? Far away from here? You don't understand the situation. I understand perfectly. You want to build your little mall on top of years of work, push 200 animals anywhere and still play the nice guy by offering pocket change to facilitate our exit. Marcus approached the fence, his face serious. It's not quite like that. No? Then explain how it is, Mr. Philanthropist. Could you stop calling me these ridiculous nicknames? I'll stop when you stop trying to destroy the place I love most in this city. They stared at each other through the fence bars, the tension electric in the air. The suited men exchanged uncomfortable glances. Marcus, we're leaving, said one of them. Good idea. Elsie spoke without taking her eyes off Marcus. And take Mr. Best Buy with you. When they were alone, Marcus sighed. Do you really have to be so difficult? Difficult. I'm not difficult, I'm persistent. There's a difference. Yes, difficult people are usually more charming. Elsie blinked, disconcerted by the unexpected comment. You won't convince me with cheap charm. Who said it was cheap? He smiled in that sarcastic way again, and for a second, just a second, Elsie almost forgot why she was angry with him. On Saturday morning, Elsie woke up to a message from Nina. Rescue event at Central Beach at 9 a.m. Come, I need help and gossip about the elevator hottie. Elsie got ready quickly, put Byron in the carrier. He protested with indignant meows and headed to the beach. The event was huge. Dozens of volunteers, tents, veterinarians, NGOs, and a crowd of curious people with phones in hand. Finally, Nina ran to meet her. You've become a celebrity. 3 people already asked me if you were the elevator girl. Wonderful. Now I'm known as the fainting veterinarian. Could be worse. Could be known as the veterinarian who can't hold a hamster. Nina? Okay. Come on, we have 5 injured dogs that arrived during the night. They were setting up a triage area when Elsie heard a commotion near the water. A group of people had gathered around something, and shouts of, "Careful!" and "Hold him!" echoed across the beach. What could that be? Nina began. A familiar figure emerged from the crowd, carrying in his arms a large mixed-breed dog that seemed to weigh at least 40 pounds. Marcus Hayes, wearing a simple T-shirt and shorts, his hair tousled by the wind, was struggling to keep the agitated dog under control. "Can someone help? Has hurt his paw," he shouted, approaching the veterinary area. Elsie froze for a second. Marcus was there, as a volunteer, dirty with sand and clearly worried about the injured animal. "Here," she shouted back, quickly preparing an improvised stretcher. "Put him here carefully." Marcus obeyed, and as they placed the dog on the stretcher, their hands touched briefly. She pretended not to notice the small electric shock she felt. "Was he hit by a car?" she asked, examining the animal. "No, I think he cut himself on broken glass in the sand. There's quite a bit of bleeding on the left rear paw." Elsie was impressed by the precise observation. He really understood animals. "Nina, bring the suture kit," she ordered, already entering professional mode. While she worked, Marcus stayed beside her, helping to keep the dog calm. His hands were firm and gentle at the same time, and the animal seemed to trust him instinctively. "How did you know he was hurt?" she asked, making the stitches. "I saw him limping near the rocks, and since he let me get close, I figured he needed help. Injured animals usually run from strangers. Maybe I'm not that strange after all." Elsie looked up and met his green gaze. For a moment she forgot she was angry with him. "Done," she said, finishing the bandage. "He'll be fine. Needs a temporary home until it heals completely." "I can take him," Marcus said immediately. "You?" Elsie couldn't hide her surprise. "Why not? I have space, time, and I've cared for animals before. But you're not the type who—" She stopped, realizing she was making assumptions. "The type who? Who cares about strays? Who has a heart? It's not that. It's just that you—" Elsie gestured vaguely in his direction. "You look like someone who has a butler to feed the goldfish." Marcus laughed. a genuine and pleasant laugh. "I don't have goldfish. I have a cat named Lord Byron who only respects me after I serve gourmet salmon." Elsie almost dropped the surgical instruments. "You have a cat named Lord Byron?" "I do. Why that shocked face?" "My cat is named Lord Byron." They stared at each other in silence for a few seconds, processing the coincidence. "Seriously?" he asked. "Seriously? And he also only respects me after gourmet salmon. How strange. Very strange." Nina, who had been watching the conversation from afar with a mischievous smile, approached. "Sorry to interrupt this moment of feline connection, but we have an emergency at tent 3. Elsie got up quickly, but before leaving turned to Marcus. "Are you really going to take care of Rex?" She had mentally named the dog. "Rex? That's his name now. How do you know his name?" "He told me." Marcus smiled again, in that way that made something strange happen in Elsie's stomach. "Then I'll take care of Rex. You can visit him whenever you want, to check if I'm doing a good job." "Maybe." 2 hours later, when the event was ending, Elsie saw Marcus saying goodbye to other volunteers near the parking lot. Rex was sleeping peacefully in a transport crate in the back seat of a car that definitely wasn't a billionaire's car. It was a common Honda Civic, kind of old, with environmental protection stickers on the windshield. "That wasn't what I expected," she murmured to herself. "What did you expect?" Nina's voice startled her. "Nothing. Just, he's different from what I thought." "Different how?" "More human." "Elsie, you're getting that look of someone falling in love." "I'm not." "You are. It's that face you make when you find an injured animal on the street, like I'm going to save this creature and make it love me." "Nina, he's still the enemy. He still wants to build on top of the shelter. And what if he doesn't want to anymore?" "What do you mean?" "What if today changed something? You saw how he behaved here. Doesn't seem like someone who would hate an animal's shelter." Elsie looked again toward the parking lot, but the Honda Civic had already disappeared. "It's complicated, Nina. The best relationships always are. It's not a relationship. Not yet." That night, at home, Elsie was giving Byron a bath when her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Elsie? It's Marcus." Her heart did a strange beat. "How did you get my number?" "Nina gave it to me." "Hope you don't mind. Depends on the reason for the call." "Rex is fine, but I think he misses you. He keeps looking at the door like he's expecting someone." "Injured animals get insecure in new places." "Yeah. Or maybe he got used to you taking care of him." "Maybe." There was a comfortable pause on the line. "Elsie?" "Yes?" "About the construction project. I wanted to talk to you. In person." "There are things you don't know." "What kind of things?" "The kind that's better to discuss face to face. Would you be up for coffee with me tomorrow?" Elsie looked at Byron, who was staring at her with disapproval for having stopped brushing him. "It's not a date," she said quickly. "Of course not. It's an informal business meeting." "With coffee." "With coffee. Okay. But I choose the place." "Perfect. Can be wherever you want." "Tony's Cafe on Church Street. 10 in the morning. He'll be there." After hanging up, Elsie realized she was smiling. Byron meowed indignantly, reminding her there was still a wet cat waiting for attention. "I know, Byron. It's a terrible idea." Byron meowed again, as if he completely agreed. Elsie arrived at Tony's Cafe 10 minutes late purposely. It was a strategy. Never arrive first when confronting the enemy. But when she pushed the glass door of the small cafe, Marcus was already there, sitting at a corner table, reading a book about Stoic philosophy. "Seriously?" she said, approaching the table. "Marcus Aurelius on a Sunday morning." Marcus looked up, closing the book. "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." "Are you trying to impress me with philosophical quotes?" "No. I'm trying to remind myself to stay calm during this conversation." Elsie sat in the chair across from him, ordered a latte from Tony, and crossed her arms. "So talk. What's so important that you couldn't say over the phone?" Marcus sighed, putting away the book. "First, the construction isn't my idea. It's the board's. Second, I didn't know about the shelter's existence when the project was approved. Third, since yesterday, I've been trying to find a way to cancel everything. Cancel? Elsie almost knocked over the coffee cup Tony had just brought. The land isn't worth the fight. There are other places in Bakersfield where I can build without affecting your work. And why did you change your mind? Marcus hesitated, stirring his sugar. Because of Rex. And because of you. Because of me. Yesterday, seeing you work with the injured animals, I realized there are things more important than commercial expansion. Elsie stared at him, trying to detect signs of lying. But Marcus seemed genuine. That's very nice, but how do I know you're not trying to fool me? Because... He took an envelope from his pocket and placed it on the table. I already cancelled it. Elsie opened the envelope. Inside were official documents cancelling the construction project, signed and stamped. How? Influence has its advantages. I managed to speed up the paperwork, but this must have cost you a fortune. Some things are priceless. They sat in silence for a few minutes, Elsie processing the information while drinking her coffee. Thank you, she said finally. You don't need to thank me. It was the right thing to do. So now we're... what? Friends? Marcus smiled. We can start there. Elsie's phone rang. It was Martha from the shelter, sounding desperate. Elsie, you need to come here now. The police are here. They say we have stolen veterinary medicines. What? That's impossible. They have a search and seizure warrant. And there's more. There's a TV camera here filming everything. Elsie jumped up from her chair as if she'd been shocked. I'm coming there now. What happened? Marcus asked, noticing her desperation. Someone reported the shelter for stealing medications. This will destroy our reputation. Do you want me to come with you? Why? To help. I have lawyers, contacts. Marcus, you barely know me. Why would you do this? He got up too, leaving money on the table, because some people are worth getting to know better. At the shelter, the situation was worse than Elsie had imagined. Police cars, a local TV crew, and Albert Mason talking animatedly with reporters about serious irregularities and professional misconduct. That's the veterinarian, Elsie heard a reporter say when she and Marcus approached. Doctor. Freeman, the reporter came running with a microphone. Is it true that you were selling veterinary medicines on the black market? What? That's absurd. We have an anonymous tip that controlled medications were found in your residence. Elsie felt the world spin. Marcus discreetly held her arm, keeping her steady. Where's the detective in charge? He asked the reporter with a firm and authoritative voice. Who are you? Marcus Hayes, doctor. Freeman's attorney? Elsie looked at him surprised. He wasn't a lawyer, but he was lying to protect her. Detective Romeo Gallagher approached, and Elsie sighed with relief. They had dated for a few months, 2 years ago. Romeo was a good person. Elsie, he said quietly, do you have any idea who could have made this report? I have no idea. I never... Romeo, you know me. I know. That's why I'm trying to resolve this as discreetly as possible. Detective, Albert approached with an oily smile, I hope you take appropriate measures. We can't allow dishonest professionals to tarnish the city's reputation. Mr. Mason, Romeo replied coldly, let's wait for the search results before making any statements. Marcus observed everything in silence, but Elsie noticed he paid special attention to the conversation between Romeo and Albert. 2 hours later, the search ended without finding anything irregular. The police withdrew, but the damage was done. The operation video was already on local news sites with headlines like Veterinarian Investigated for Illegal Drug Sales and Scandal at Bakersfield Animal Shelter. This will ruin my career, Elsie murmured, sitting on a kennel bench with Rex, who had been brought back by Marcus, lying beside her. It won't. Marcus sat beside her. We'll find out who did this and prove your innocence. Why are you helping me? Seriously, I don't understand. Marcus was silent for a moment, petting Rex. When I was 8 years old, my mother died in a car accident. My father was completely lost, and I ended up spending a lot of time at my grandmother's house. She had an animal shelter in the backyard, dogs, cats, even a parrot that swore in 3 languages. That's where I learned that taking care of those who need it is what gives life meaning. Elsie stared at him, seeing a vulnerability he hadn't shown before. Does your grandmother still have the shelter? No. She lives in a nursing home now, a bit confused with age, but I never forgot the lessons I learned there. And that's why you want to help me? That, and because, he hesitated, because I care about you. More than I should, considering we've known each other for 3 days. Before Elsie could respond, Nina appeared, running across the courtyard. Elsie, you need to see this. She waved her phone. Vivian Andrews, that influencer, is posting about you. Who's Vivian Andrews? Marcus tensed beside her. My ex-fiancée, he murmured. Your what? Elsie took Nina's phone and read the post aloud. Met a veterinarian who pretends to be a saint, but actually sells drugs illegally. Beware of false moralists who take advantage of love for animals to profit. Unexposed. Bakersfield, just fake veterinarian. The post already had thousands of likes and hundreds of malicious comments. Marcus, Elsie turned to him, her voice dangerously low. Your ex-fiancé is trying to destroy me, and you didn't think it was relevant to tell me you two were engaged. Elsie, I can explain later. Now I want to know, what other important things did you forget to mention? On Monday morning, Elsie was in her apartment trying to answer emails from clients cancelling appointments when Marcus appeared at the door with Rex, a grocery bag and a guilty expression. Before you hit me with something, he said quickly, I brought explanations, gourmet coffee and treats for Byron. Byron appeared like a small, furry ghost, smelled the bag, and decided Marcus was temporarily acceptable. Traitor, Elsie muttered to the cat, but let Marcus in. Vivian and I broke up 6 months ago, he began, preparing coffee in the tiny kitchen while Elsie sat on the couch with Rex. The engagement lasted 2 years. The relationship was a complete mistake. And why is she trying to destroy me? Because she thinks you're a threat. Threat how? Marcus stopped stirring the coffee and stared at her. Because she saw the elevator video. And because yesterday photos of us appeared at Tony's cafe. And because she knows me well enough to know when I'm interested in someone. Elsie felt something warm spread through her chest, but forced herself to maintain composure. Interested how? The kind where I haven't slept well since I met you, because I keep thinking about your honey-colored eyes and the way you get angry when you're defending some cause. My eyes aren't honey-colored. Yes, they are. And you're changing the subject. What subject? The fact that I'm in love with you and you're pretending not to care. Elsie almost dropped Rex from her lap. You're what? In love. Hopelessly, irremediably in love. Marcus brought 2 coffee cups and sat in the armchair across from the couch. And before you say it's too fast, I know it is. But some things in life don't follow logical timelines. Marcus, and I know you feel something too, because you blush when I smile, and because yesterday at the shelter you let me hold your hand, and because you're staring at me now like you want to kiss me but are afraid. I'm not. Yes, you are. They stared at each other in silence for a few seconds, the sexual tension practically visible in the air. Byron chose that moment to jump onto Marcus' lap and start purring. Even your cat likes me, Marcus said, scratching behind Byron's ears. He likes anyone who brings gourmet treats. And you? I'm more demanding than Byron. Good. I like challenges. Elsie's phone rang, interrupting the moment. It was Romeo. Elsie, I found out some things about the anonymous tip. Can you come to the station? Sure. I can go now. And bring your lawyer, if he's still representing you. Elsie looked at Marcus, who nodded in agreement. At the station, Romeo received them with a serious expression. The tip came from a payphone, but we managed to trace some interesting things. He showed some papers. The statement mentions very specific details about medications that only someone in the veterinary field would know. Like what? Elsie asked. Commercial brands of anesthetics, specific dosages, storage protocols. Whoever made the tip has technical knowledge. So it wasn't Vivian, Marcus murmured. Exactly. She might be defaming you on social media, but the criminal report came from someone else. Who else would have an interest in harming me? Elsie sat down, confused. Someone who wants the shelter closed, Marcus said slowly. Someone who would benefit if you were forced to leave the land. Albert, Romeo and Elsie said simultaneously. But why would he do this? The construction project was cancelled. Elsie looked at Marcus. Not officially, Romeo said. The documents cancelling the work were only filed this morning. Until yesterday, for all legal purposes, the project was still ongoing. And there's more, Marcus added, looking worried. Last night I got a call from Albert. He said he had compromising documents about supposed environmental irregularities in my companies. He wanted to schedule a meeting. Blackmail, Romeo said immediately. He's trying to pressure both of you. Elsie through professional reputation, Marcus through legal threats. What do we do? You go to the meeting with him, but you'll use this. Romeo showed a small recorder. If he tries extortion, we'll have proof. Is it dangerous? Elsie asked. A little, but it's the only way to end this. Marcus held her hand. You don't have to go. I can handle it alone. No way. If it's about the shelter, I'm going. We're partners in this. Partners? In crime fighting, Marcus. Don't misinterpret. But the way she didn't let go of his hand said otherwise. That afternoon, they met Albert at a restaurant away from downtown Bakersfield. He was visibly nervous, sweating more than normal. Mr. Hayes, Dr. Freeman, thank you for coming. Let's get straight to the point, Albert, Marcus said. What do you want? Well, as you know, there are some irregularities that could cause problems for both of you. The good news is I can make these irregularities disappear. In exchange for what? Elsie asked, her hand on the recorder inside her purse. Let's say my public services deserve private gratification. 500,000 for me, the construction project goes back to normal, and the doctor's legal problems simply evaporate. You're asking for a bribe, Marcus said clearly. I'm offering solutions. And if we refuse? Albert smiled coldly. That would be a shame. The doctor would have to answer criminally for drug trafficking, and you, Mr. Hayes, would discover that your environmental licenses have some questionable signatures. You forged documents? I didn't forge anything. I just facilitated some processes that perhaps didn't follow all necessary legal procedures. Elsie looked at Marcus, who nodded discreetly. They had what they needed. I need time to think, Marcus said. Of course. But not too much time. Let's say, until tomorrow? When they left the restaurant, Elsie was shaking with rage. That disgusting man. He invented the report against me. And on top of that wants $500,000 to stop. Marcus put his arm around her shoulders. But now we have proof. Romeo can arrest him. What if he tries to carry out the threats first? There won't be time. Tomorrow morning this nightmare ends. They were walking along the waterfront when Marcus suddenly stopped. Elsie? Yes, regardless of how this story ends, I want you to know that these have been the best days of my life in a long time. Because of the problems, she smiled. Because of you. This time, when he leaned in to kiss her, she didn't pull back. The kiss was soft, sweet, and loaded with promises neither was ready to verbalize yet. When they separated, Elsie whispered, "This complicates everything." I know. Marcus smiled, resting his forehead against hers. Should we complicate it together? And there, with the sun setting over Bakersfield and the sound of traffic in the background, Elsie knew her life had changed forever. Epilogue. 6 months later, Elsie was in the garden of Marcus' penthouse, helping him plant violet seedlings for the new recreation area of the Paws and Hearts shelter, which now operated on the land that would have been the mall, transformed into an animal rehabilitation center that bore his mother's name. Lord Byron, Marcus, and Lord Byron, Elsie's, had become best friends, harmoniously sharing 2 bowls of gourmet salmon while silently judging all the humans around them. Rex ran through the garden with 3 more rescued dogs that now lived permanently with them, while Marcus tried to convince Elsie that planting basil near the violets was a terrible botanical idea. "You're going to kill them," he said, taking dirt from her hands and cleaning them with a damp cloth. "No, I won't. Basil is resistant. Resistant but invasive. It'll suffocate the violets. Plants don't suffocate, Marcus. They suffer nutrient competition. You're being dramatic. I have a degree in business administration with a specialization in environmental management. I know what I'm talking about. And I'm a veterinarian. I know how to take care of living things. They stared at each other for a few seconds before starting to laugh. We're ridiculous, Elsie said, sitting on the grass. We're perfect. Marcus sat beside her, pulling her closer. Albert's scandal had dominated local newspapers for weeks. He was arrested red-handed trying to receive the bribe, and investigations revealed a corruption scheme involving several irregular constructions in the city. Vivian, after discovering that her war against Elsie had been completely unnecessary, since Marcus was really in love and wouldn't return to her anyway, made a public post apologizing and moved to Los Angeles. Romeo was promoted to chief detective and started dating Nina, who discovered that men in uniform were her type after all. Grandma Claire gained 50,000 more YouTube followers after they discovered she was the grandmother of the elevator veterinarian and started giving love advice to famous couples. And Elsie discovered that being the girlfriend of a billionaire businessman had its advantages, especially when that businessman used his fortune to create the best animal rehabilitation center in California, and also cooked better than she did. Elsie, Marcus said, playing with a strand of her hair. Do you remember that day in the elevator? When I fainted and became a national meme? Hard to forget. Did you know I had been watching you for 15 minutes before you got in the elevator? What? How? You were at the reception, arguing with the secretary about the ventilation conditions of the temporary shelter, gesticulating like crazy, red with anger, completely passionate about the cause. That's when I knew I needed to meet you. So you followed me to the elevator. Technically, I was going to the same meeting as you, but I may have deliberately delayed calling it together. Marcus Hayes, you manipulated our first meeting. I maximized our chances of interaction. He smiled, kissing her neck. Crucial difference. You're terrible. You love me anyway. Unfortunately. Fortunately, he corrected, rolling on the grass to be on top of her. And I love you too. More than Basil loves Son. That was the cheesiest analogy in the history of humanity. It was romantic. It was cheesy. Then give me a cheesy kiss too. And she did. Right there in the penthouse garden, with 2 cats judging and 4 dogs running around, while the sun set over Bakersfield and the future stretched before them like a golden promise. Because sometimes the best love stories begin with a faint in an elevator and end with violets and basil growing together, proving that even the most unlikely combinations can work when there's true love.